Hi and welcome back to this second part of the Maze Chase tutorial. In this section we'll be just adding a few extra features as we go along to enhance our game. At the moment I'm just looking at the main room I've created, the main level. I'm just hovering my mouse around an area. As you can see at the bottom here it will show you X and Y coordinates. So when you determine where you're going to place things, you can actually make a note of those X and Y coordinates as you go. The first thing we'll be adding is a live system, so we can actually display the lives on screen. And I want my lives to appear around this area, so I'm looking at an X and Y of 32 by 32. So the first thing we need to do is go right click on our SPR player and choose duplicates, and we'll just rename that SPR lives. If we then edit the sprites, what we don't need are the three images at the end here. We just need the image 0. So we're just going to get rid of those ones. So let's delete, delete, delete. So we're just left with the one image. And OK. And then OK again. What we need to do now is create an object that's going to be placed on every level of our game. And this will display the lives as well as other things that we'll add in later on. So right click on objects and choose the option create object. I'm going to call this obj game control. I'm not going to add a sprite. What I need to do is add an event, a draw, and from the score menu you need to have a look at the live section, and it's this option here, draw live images, that we need to drag into the actions. If you remember, it was 32, 32 for the X and Y, and the image will be SPR lives. You just click on OK and OK again, and we're now back in our room. So make sure objects is selected from your room level 1 and locate your OBJ game control. Just place it somewhere in your room. Remember, for each level you create you'll need to add this object. It's going to tick there and test the game. Let's see if that works. So here's our splash screen, which will change in the next section. Press the space, and as you can see my live system is now up and running. Let me just go and lose a life, and hopefully those images will be reduced down to 2. Fantastic. While we're creating this section, what we'll do is just over this side of the screen is we'll add in our score, so we can see our score on the screen. So the X is 480 and the Y is 32. Let's go back to your OBJ game control, and still in the draw event, go to score, and you'll be able to see it along the top here. You've got the option draw score. Drag that in, type in the X and Y, so 448, 32. Caption score, so this is the word that will appear before the actual score. I'm going to leave it as default. Click on OK and then test the game. And as you can see, we now have our score counting up. Might need repositioning ever so slightly, but you can adjust that until you're happy. Okay, so the next step is to improve the room start. At the moment it's just a grey screen. You can create a file in Photoshop or Paint and so on and add it as a background just to make it look a little bit better. So we're going to right click on backgrounds, choose the option create background. I'm going to call this BG title and load background. Browse to the area you saved your file, and click on open.
As you can see, it's a very plain image here. You can improve it with time. Hopefully later on I'll get a bit more time to make it slightly better, so you may see it change in future videos. Once we've got it, click on OK. Make sure you've got your start room or room title selected and choose the option backgrounds. And from the drop down list you can choose BG title. As long as you've created it at the same size as the room, it should all be fine. If it's slightly out, you can just change the colour to make it match whatever options you've used on your main screen there. So I'm just going to tick OK, give it a little test, and though it's not brilliant, but it's slightly better than a blank screen, and it gives us the options available. So I'll press space to start, and I'm back into my game. Now we're going to change the life system slightly. At the moment we can keep dying and we'll lose a life, but it's quite happy to go into negative figures. So we just need to tweak that so when we run out of lives we get a game over message and it takes us back to the title screen. So go back to your object player, OBJ player, and select the collision with the object baddie. And as you can see, it's just setting lives to relative -1, and then it restarts the current room. If you come down to the score tab, what we need is the option to test lives. If we drag that into the top and value is equal to 0, what we can do is tweak it ever so slightly. So let's drag in a start and end of block, and else, and another start and end of block. So it roughly looks like this. So if lives are equal to 0, at the moment it's set to do nothing. If they're not 0, it deducts 1 and restarts the current room. So in this start and end of block here, we want to be able to set some other actions. So under main 2, we can choose this option here, which displays a message. So we can just drag that in, and the message will be game over, or anything you want to add in that box. Click on OK, and the next step would be to go to a room. So we're going to choose different room. I'm just going to drag that under display a message and choose the option RM start. So it takes us back to the title screen. You could at this point have a game over screen if you wanted to and go to that first and then from there back to the title screen. Totally up to you. But click on OK and let's just test, see how our game's working. So press space, run up, and hopefully when I lose lives, I should have placed the baddie a little bit closer. So -1 life, -2, 3, and we're on to our doggy life. And it's game over. And we're back to our title screen. Okay, so we're happily losing lives, but what happens if we want to add a new life, or a pickup to add a new life? If we go up to sprites, we'll create a new sprite for our lives, and we'll just call it SPR extra life, and we'll load a sprite. Just a simple little heart for this one would be fine, and click on open and OK. If we create an object from that sprite, OBJ extra life, and just choose the sprite that we just created and click OK. If you go back to your object player, we need to add an event with a collision to the extra life and choose what we want to happen. So when we collide with the life, we want it to disappear. So we'll destroy the instance from main 1. And remember to choose other, or it will just destroy our player. Click OK. And from the score section, we want to set lives to +1. And make sure you tick relative. Click on OK. Now we go into our room and decide where we're going to place our extra life. I'm just going to remove this apple here, and I'll choose my life from the objects and choose where to place it. So we're just going to pop it in here. And now if we just have a quick test. Should be able to run up and grab my extra life, and as you can see, it's appeared along the top here. Okay, so we've got some baddies that move left and right in our game. What would be nice is if we had one that moved up and down the screen as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new object, which is going to be obj baddie up down. We're going to load the sprite SPR baddie, and we're going to add a few actions. So we're going to add an event create, and when it's created we want it to move in a direction, so hopefully up or down, as that's what we're going for. We're going to move it at a speed of 3, so slightly slower than our player, and click on OK. We're also going to go into main 1 and select the change sprite option. And we're just going to choose SPR baddie, subimage 0, speed 0. This will stop it flicking around as we used earlier. We also need to add a collision event with the wall. So when the ghost hits the wall, from move menu we want to reverse vertical and choose self. OK. If we go to our level 1, see if you've got some space to add in your new baddie. I'm going to remove a block just here, so I've got somewhere to run and hide. So obj baddie up down, about here. So when he's moving up and down, I'll have a space to run in and hide. So let's just have a look, see if that's all working. Okay, so our baddie up down is now moving. That's fantastic. The only downside is he's not been programmed to kill us. So all we need to do is go back into our object player, and we've already got an obj baddie collision event. So what we need to do is just right click, duplicate event, and choose collision with the object baddie up down, and everything else is done for us. And now when we hit him we will lose a life, as we expect. As you can see, I lost my life there quite happily. Okay, the final little step in this tutorial will be to change sprites. As you work through your game, you may decide it wants a better look or a completely different look. It's quite useful because we programmed all the bits and pieces down here, so normally we only want to change some of the looks. So for this one I'll just change the SPR wall. So double click on the sprite wall and choose the option Load Sprites. Browse to where you've saved your new graphics, and then just click on Open. And you'll be able to go straight into your room, and you'll notice all of the changes have taken effect. You may find that some of the graphics don't look as well as you expected, so it's just experimenting to find the look for you. Hopefully that's given you a little bit more to go on with. Just keep amending your game, adding some more levels, and seeing where you go. I'll be back in part 3, and hopefully I would have had time to change some of the looks and design, and we'll add a few extra features then. Thank you for watching.